Fantasy Six-Pack Hour with your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And AJ Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as usual, AJ Applegarth. How's it going, man?
It is going. Yeah. Long day, long week.
Yeah, long week's the right word, man. I feel you on that. So we won't go into any more on that. I think I know where you're headed there, but I don't want to do that tonight. So let's have some more fun. We got the Packers and the 49ers on right now. It's a pretty close game considering the 49ers have lost everybody. So it's kind of interesting. Bye week teams this week. We got Eagles, Bengals, Browns, and the Rams. Before we move on here, though, let me remind you to subscribe to us, follow us on YouTube, Periscope, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you watch or listen to us. We appreciate your support. AJ, interesting news here before we bring on our guest. Tampa Bay is activating Antonio Brown, and he will play Sunday. What's your thoughts there, man? What did we expect from Antonio Brown? I mean, we saw one game with him last year with Tom Brady. Granted, totally different offense, totally different team, but hey, they made it happen last year.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited for this. I was very off of the AB train for quite some time after last year's complete and utter debacle of debauchery and idiocy that he displayed throughout everything. But I did end up grabbing him in Scott Fish. I don't know why he was still sitting there, but I said, well, whatever. I'm 0-6 or 0-7 at the time. I might as well try to do something. So, I actually almost dropped him this week for waivers. And then I was looking, I was like, let me try to see if there's any news on him. And then I saw this news. I was like, and I'm not dropping him. So, I don't think he's going to play a ton. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up finding the end zone within the 15 or 20 or so plays that he might get, just for the hell of it. But other than that, I mean, I'm not expecting a whole lot this week. Next week could be a different story, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll depend for me if Chris Godwin's healthy. You know, I'm kind of worried about how much Brady likes to throw the ball around and just spread it around a lot. You know, Scotty Miller's been involved. We've seen a whole lot of people involved. And Fournette's now healthy too, and he's been catching balls out of the backfield as well. I mean, Rojo as well too. So I mean, just a lot of mouths to feed there. I'm not expecting huge things. Of course, he's going to have a game or two. They're all going to, but it's just what it is there in Tampa Bay. I feel like so. So where? Here we go. Breaking news here. Our producer Jeff says, NFL fines Las Vegas $500,000, Coach John Gruden $150K, and strips a draft pick. Whoa, for repeat offenses against COVID-19 protocols. I mean, dropping the bomb with the draft. I wonder what round the draft pick will be.
First,
it says sixth.
They have
round.
17 first.
Sixth round is what I'm hearing. So wow. It's still, hey, you know what though? I mean, we've repeatedly seen John Gruden on the sideline, like with the mask, like hanging around his chin. Like, come on, dude. Yeah, you got to figure this stuff out. So, all right, well, let's bring our guest on. We've dilly-dallied enough here in the beginning. So, honored to have TJ Hernandez from 4 for 4, the director of DFS over there. How you doing, TJ?
Gentlemen, what's up? I'm doing good. It's we're at the midway point already. If you're playing redraft, we're over the hump. So excited to be this far, but there's still plenty of action left.
Absolutely, my teams are kind of just hanging in there for the most part. It feels like this year, like everybody else. I mean, just I'm decimated on a few teams, but because everybody else is, you're just kind of in the flow. But yeah, it's good stuff. So we got a big show tonight, but before we get into that, let's do our beer of the week.
Beer.
All right, TJ. I already know you're gonna hate all of our beers, judging from your Twitter profile, but maybe AJ will surprise me. But you go ahead first as the guest.
Got a little Oktoberfest from Leinen Kugel. There's a lot of good local Oktoberfest, but it was getting towards the end of the month, so I was running low. Society in San Diego actually has a really good one, but I just try to stock up on Oktoberfests during the season because it's probably one of my favorite styles. So load up on those while I can.
All good, all good. AJ,
Nice.
What you got?
I am actually just kicking back with some sugar-free Red Bull right now.
Oh, yeah.
I do have that. That is still there, but I'm drinking a Clown Shoes Space Cake Double IPA, 9% pint. Yeah, why not? I mean,
where's that from?
Clown Shoes is Boston, Mass, and Windsor, Vermont.
Nice.
All right. I am drinking an Oliver Brewing Company. I'm just gonna show the can. It's bring the mother effing ruckus, because ruckus is one of the hops that's in it. I guess. I'll be honest. I had never heard of ruckus hops before this. But it's tasty, man. I got it a few weeks ago. Held on to this one. A local brew here in Maryland, actually out of Baltimore. So yeah, cheers, guys.
Cheers. Happy Thursday.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what we like to start off here with is a little advice column, and I've been doing this all year. Kind of enjoy it. Just a little, we know there's all different types of listeners, and people need all advice we can get. Or they can get here. So the topic this week is when to cut ties with that player that you've had on your bench. The guy, maybe it's a running back that you stashed who you thought might be big. There's a lot of them out there, right? We'll get to a couple of those. It could be a receiver who you think could just be, could just get that one opportunity. It's just something like there's a guy you're stashing. We all have them. When is it the right time to cut bait? And I know it seems like a cop-out answer, but it really depends on your record. If you're 7-1, you're 8-0, you're even 6-2, you can hang on to these guys and maybe wait it out. Maybe you'll get the Miles Sanders end of the year run. You can wait on that. If you're kind of in the middle road and you're getting hammered by bye weeks or injuries, and look, you need to cut somebody, that's probably the guy you cut. You kind of just have to. This is really all there is to it. If you're in the bottom, 100%, you got to cut it. Just go get production anywhere you can at this point. Try to squeak into the playoffs. You never know. I've seen teams squeak into the playoffs as the 6th seed, just get on fire and then win the league. It happens all the time. So I know it. It sounds like a cop-out answer, but it really is the truth. It just depends. And then it depends on the player, right? I mean, look, there were people a couple of weeks ago that were probably trying to cut DeAndre Swift. I mean, he was a guy that people were really hitting. He was drafted semi-early, too. So it was hard to cut him. And I know he was cutting a lot of places, traded. I hung on to him, and yeah, he hasn't quite lived up to the expectations I was hoping, but he's coming around, and I feel like he's close. And another guy, and this will kind of piggyback into our next topic here, is Cam Akers. Cam Akers, right? We all thought he was going to be the guy there. The Rams have kind of gone back and forth. I don't really know what the Rams are doing with Cam Akers. They're really not giving him a lot of touches, which is kind of shocking. But, I mean, I guess the way Henderson and Brown are playing, you really can't. Akers might be one of those guys I'd just be willing to cut bait on him at this point. Or if anybody wants to take a chance on him in the league and, maybe trade him, but good luck. TJ, I'll go to you here. what's your thoughts on this? Like, do you agree, disagree? Any other examples you can give?
I mean, I think you're probably pretty spot on in terms of like evaluating where you're at. Obviously, roster size is going to play into it a lot too.
Yes.
I mean, I'm always looking at volume first. So I mean, the difference between an AJ Green and like a I don't know a Michael Gallup or something, like, even though Michael Gallup had a big target game last week, like AJ's still seeing a ton of targets, still seeing a lot of air yards, whereas like before last week, who knows what to think of the Cowboys offense. Gallup just falling behind CeeDee Lamb, obviously behind Amari Cooper. So I mean, if I have a receiver who is usually going to be a little harder to evaluate, I think, for most people compared to a running back. Like if running back's getting usage, he's going to be valuable. I'm looking at things like those targets and air yards. So like sometimes it takes a long time for that regression to hit or for the opportunity to turn into actual fantasy points. So I'm going to be more willing to stash a wide receiver at it's a deeper position too. But also, like, going back to your example of a Cam Akers, he specifically wasn't a guy that I was on, but like if you're drafting, say, a J.K. Dobbins or a DeAndre Swift, like, you should have been going into your drafts thinking like, why am I drafting this guy? I'm not drafting him to start in week 1. Like he's a draft and hold. There's players that draft and you want them to hit right away. There's players you're going to draft and hold, like a Miles Sanders last year. Like I wrote up DeAndre Swift going into the season as this year's Miles Sanders, because I think it's going to take second to, when you have an Adrian Peterson on the roster, Adrian Peterson's going to be the starter for the first few weeks. That's what we saw. And now we see DeAndre Swift starting to get that workload, finally jump Adrian Peterson in snaps, in touch share, and that probably is just going to be a snowball effect. So if you're like drafting him and then cutting him 4 weeks into the season, you didn't really go through like the thought process of why you're drafting these players. Obviously, we're all the way to week 9, so it's way beyond that. Yeah. But I mean, but if you are like on that, like there might still be people that are making really tough decisions with bye weeks, like with DeAndre Swift. Do I hold him? And like those are the players you want to hold, and then younger players too, like these rookies or second year guys, they're typically going to break out later in the season. If they're those unknown assets, I'm going to be more likely to hold than some guy that's been in the league for 5 or 6 years. If he's not doing it by now, he's not going to do it.
Yeah. To be fair though, with Swift, I will say this. I drafted him before Adrian Peterson was on that team everywhere.
For sure. Yeah.
So like that was a whole nother like wrench thrown in. And as soon as AP went there, I went, no.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just kept trying to tell myself, AP won't be involved. AP won't be involved. Ah, damn it. So,
yeah.
I mean, even off the bat, like AP, he had like, I think week 1, he got a lot of usage, but like he hasn't been like a 60, 70% workload guy. So, I mean, it's like, I think the signs have kind of been there to hold Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I want to add into this too is not necessarily, I mean, in a sense, you're cutting ties with these players, but the guys I'm looking at here are really guys that you're trading right now, that you're just tired of waiting for them. And Michael Thomas and CMC come to mind because I own them on one of my leagues, and it's been horrible.
It's returning. Careful.
I know, and it's like, great. Why didn't I do this like 3 weeks ago? But that's the other finicky thing with it too. Thinking Thomas was going to come back, so I would have had some support, but no, he's still, tweaking hamstrings and doing whatever else. So, that's another thing that I like to look at here. It's like guys that you're just soured on in general, from whatever injury, suspension, waiting for them to perform like we've already talked about. I'm fine getting rid of some of these guys.
A rage drop / trade in effect here with AJ.
Oh, it is, man. I'm very, very fickle and very, very, trigger happy at times. So it's just, I'm done. I get it. I'm done with you.
Isn't this time of year though, like when people are having that frustration, the perfect time to remind everybody, like, supplement your redraft with best ball or play a lot more best ball? Like, you don't have to think about you can just draft. You can for a $100 investment, you can have an extra 20, 30 teams. And and that takes some of the.
I need more best ball in my life. All of the leagues, the new leagues that I jumped in this year, I think only one of them is best ball. So
I jumped into like 4 dynasty leagues, and I was like, "You're insane." I'm in one, and that's
I don't know why I did what I did, but
yeah.
I reduce my redraft leagues every year, and I still forget my waivers like a good 3 or 4 times a year.
How many leagues are you
I
in?
didn't even set lineups tonight. I was working
only,
so late. I was like, oh crap. Right as I was turning my computer on, I was like, oh yeah, there's a game tonight. I probably should have looked at this a little bit more. I knew that I was probably going to be busy later this week, so I did kind of preemptively set some things. But whatever. It's too much. It's too much.
I'm down
how many leagues are you in?
I'm down to 3 in-season management leagues.
All right, that's way less than.
But I have like hundreds of best ball teams. Then obviously I'm playing a ton of DFS. But
yeah, I'm in like 8 redraft / dynasty leagues combined, which was up from like 6 last year because I got invited to. But I'm gonna drop it back down. I already know like 3 leagues I'm dropping next year. Yeah, they're cut bait. AJ and I already know of one because we're in it together.
And it's the one best ball that I'm in. I'm like,
it is, but it's still a joke. I want nothing to do with it. It's best ball, but there's waivers, so it's best ball weekly. So I don't set a lineup, but it's still waivers, but it's still a joke. Anyway, moving on. So like I said, with Cam Akers, that kind of piggybacked into our next topic here, and what I want to get into, and I call it running back carousels. You can call it running back madness if you want. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's just so much chaos with the running back position this year, and I know all the 0 running back people are going to go, see, I told you. But you know what, literally, like, this is never expected though. Like, this is just craziness. But still, you know what, I will say this, there's a lot of receivers up top that aren't doing crap either, so hey. But hey, so let's start off with the Rams. So the Rams, right? Cam Akers. You just already said, TJ, that you weren't a huge Akers guy going in. I was, because I've seen Brown and Henderson play, and they weren't getting the job done even when they had opportunities. So, like, to have them do what they're doing now is just super unexpected to me. Akers wasn't a big target of mine, like, coming into the NFL draft. Like, I was kind of like, whatever, Cam Akers, but I thought the opportunity was there for him, and I thought, okay, he's got to be that offensive line there for the Rams has to be better than what he had in FSU. So why not? I took a chance on him in like 1 league, and it's obviously backfired. I mean, is Akers ever gonna get into the fold here without an injury, or what?
I mean, I think the biggest indicator that we had was when he was active and got back-to-back games of basically 0 snaps. That Darrell Henderson is basically, if he's active, is going to be their guy at this point. Like, obviously the first few weeks were really ugly, but to have no action while you're active is a pretty it's pretty telling. So yeah, I think you need an injury for Akers. I said I wasn't big on Akers going into the season. My logic didn't prove to hold up because last year the Rams had the lowest running back touch share in the league. Now they're actually near the top of the league in terms of rushing rate in neutral game script, but it's still a situation where, I mean, last year they're like, Gurley was buoyed by a big touchdown rate. And I kind of expected, like, not this extreme of a committee, but a committee to some extent. So in those situations, I kind of just always want the cheapest guy. It doesn't always play out that way. But from just a drafting standpoint, that's kind of how I approach it. So I don't see, especially we're so late in the season, like if Akers does ascend into starting, like, if you're trading for him or something, are you hoping that it happens like in the playoffs? Like, are you gonna, if he starts trending in the right direction, are you just gonna randomly start him in the first week of your fantasy playoffs? Like, it's gonna need to happen really, really fast for you to trust him, and I just don't see how it happens in the next couple weeks.
I agree, man. With he would have to, at least Miles Sanders last year, like, he's the best example, most recent example of success, right? Late season, just boom. Akers, isn't getting even half the work Sanders was getting at this point. So Akers is just like off the radar, in my opinion. And I definitely like, even I'm in a keeper league where I had him as like a round 7 keeper possibly, and was like, nope, goodbye. So my keeper probably next year is going to be Lockett in round like 5, which is going to be fantastic still. So it's going to be okay. But yeah, it's just one of those. These guys kind of have it locked down. Obviously, injuries could change things in a heartbeat, but that's 2 guys he's got to go through to get real good workload. So, AJ, what you got?
All right. So the next set we got here is the team that's playing tonight, 49ers. They are without Raheem Mostert. They are without Tevin Coleman, who had just come back and is already back injured again. They're also without Jeff Wilson after he had his blow-up game of not doing a damn thing for my Scott Fish team for multiple weeks, and then I dropped him and he blew up. But I mean, what are we seeing tonight so far? I mean, we've got Hasty and we've got McKinnon. So, I mean, of these 2 guys, I mean, where else are they going to go with it? I mean, and this was a team that's just stacked at running back, and they have been for the past few years. And it seems like it's kind of a hot hand type deal because someone's always injured, usually McKinnon. But surprisingly, he's been the one that's been mostly healthy this year.
And Mostert.
Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Niners here, TJ?
I mean, I don't like to follow the coaching running back by committee narrative, because one of the things I do every offseason is look at coaching staffs and look at how players are utilized. And it's pretty clear that talent almost always drives touch share, but Shanahan is an extreme case where we just don't have any evidence of him. And the last time he had a workhorse was, I honestly, I can't even remember the last time he had a true workhorse. So like, we have this sample size since he's been in San Francisco of just consistently mixing it up. Even when Mostert was having his big second half of the season, he still wasn't breaking a 60% touch share last year. So that's the concern with this team, no matter what. When they were completely healthy, even this year, Mostert, I think he only had 1 game with like a 70% touch share. So if you're not giving it to your best running back, are you going to give it to your backups? I don't see a situation where any of them break out as like I kind of want like a rough rule of thumb is like 2/3 of the backfield touches to be like a for sure starter. Yeah. And then on top of it, we need some kind of positive game script. And with the way the Niners are trending with Kittle out, with no Jimmy G, even though Jimmy G wasn't playing great, you can't just, I don't expect that they're ever going to be in a great game script where Mostert really thrived last year when the Niners were just dominating teams, that any of the running backs are going to be in the situation where they can dominate games like that.
Yeah. So any thoughts on the Niners?
I mean, this we've mentioned this before, and I mean, just cut it short here, but this backfield's a mess, even when even when there's only 2 guys healthy. Like, everybody thought it was going to be Hasty tonight, and it's been McKinnon so far. So, like, whatever. Good luck, guys. I mean, Mostert's the only one I feel like you can somewhat trust. If he's healthy, I think he's the guy you start. If he's not, I don't know who to start. I really don't. And people ask me every week, and I just go, sure, start that guy. Like, I literally, I've told people on Twitter, like, I really don't know. We're guessing with San Fran, because Shanahan will do the complete opposite of what we think, guys. Mm-hmm. Moving on here to the Chargers, and of course Eckler's out, so in place of him, we've gotten Justin Jackson and Kelly here, and a lot of people thought that it was going to be Kelly because of the way he kind of started off the season hot, and Jackson looked like he fell behind him. But since Eckler has been hurt, it's been Jackson who's been much better than Kelly. But they've also had a few weeks where Kelly's been better, like here and there. So like, it's kind of flip flopping from week to week. Is it easy? Like, right now, everybody seems to be back on the Jackson train. I mean, is that what we should be doing, or should we just not? Again, it's just more of a San Fran thing. Like, we don't know every week. What do you think, TJ?
So like one thing that we have to do with these running back committees is we have to deal in smaller sample sizes. Like you're not going to get a 4 or 5 week sample size before you jump on a train. It's going to be too late. Everybody's already going to know what's going on. So like we have to hope that these 1 or 2 week sample sizes are going to translate into bigger workloads. And with Justin Jackson, we saw a 45 touch share last week. Over the last 2 weeks, 42% touch share. That's not, we want it to be way over 50, but at least it's the team lead. And then we saw it wasn't even Joshua Kelly getting the second most touches last week. It was, God, what's their other running back's name?
Tremaine Pope.
Yes, Tremaine Pope was getting work.
Yeah.
So it's like if Tremaine Pope is jumping Kelly in workload, then shouldn't that be the indicator that Justin Jackson, at least if somebody's going to run away with it, it's going to be him? And on top of it, like quotes from the coaching staff that's saying Eckler's going to be back later than sooner. Like that sounds like he might not be playing this year. Like I do rest of season rankings at 4 for 4, and I was pushing up Eckler. I was keeping Eckler ahead of Jackson just because if Eckler comes back, we know what he is. But now I pushed Jackson ahead of Eckler for the first time this year because it seems more likely that Eckler's out really late into the season than him coming back soon. And out of all these situations we're talking about, Chargers are an offense that have obviously been very efficient, at least from a fantasy standpoint, with Herbert, and that's going to translate to more scoring opportunities from now until the end of the fantasy regular season till week 13. The Chargers have the third easiest running back schedule. The Raiders, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Bills, and the Patriots all ranked 20th or worst in 4 for 4's schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. So if we're going to take a stab on somebody that isn't one of these big name rookies, Dobbins or Swift is probably, you're not trading for them. I think Jackson is, just because I don't think owners are going to let those guys go. Jackson is going to be the one to take a stab at.
I'm gonna say it now, man. Don't sleep on Troymaine Pope. Guy got some touches last week, and he did something with it. He's been around for a little while, and this backfield is just kind of murky without Eckler there. I mean, going into the season, you kind of figured it was going to be Eckler and Jackson were going to kind of be Gordon and Eckler. But obviously the injury to Eckler changes that a lot. And Kelly seemed to be getting a lot of traction earlier on. And, again, it's that hot hand mentality, I feel like, coming in. But, Pope had a really nice game last week. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him, get some more touches and maybe take away from Kelly, I think, more than Jackson.
Yep.
Of the two, Jackson's
10 for 67, man. It was solid.
Yeah,
it caught 5.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson's still going to be the main bell cow, running back for them. So, getting the rushing touches at least. But I like Pope. I mean, I like Kelly too. I think he's got good talent. He's got good upside. It's just a consistency thing for me. So
I will also say, like a Justin Jackson, you have to put it into context of the season. Like right now, especially with bye weeks going on, a running back that's getting you 12 to 15 fantasy points is insanely valuable when running backs just I don't know if we're cussing on here. If running back's just
it's fine.
A shit show. When running back's a shit show, that is a lot more valuable than the season last season where you have 20 obvious starting running backs. So you should be valuing a Justin Jackson a little more than you might in other situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right, AJ, next team.
All right. So next team we got here is our hometown team, if you will, the Baltimore Ravens. Neither one of us huge Ravens fans, but nope, we do follow them. You for your wife and me because I'm here. Mark Ingram's out. I mean, he hasn't really been doing much anyways. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins are now splitting the work. I mean, do you feel good about starting either of these guys, TJ?
Yeah, I feel good about starting J.K. Dobbins because they used draft capital on him. And going back to the Miles Sanders example, like he's just looking for that little window to squeeze through. Like just let Ingram get out for a minute and show what I can do. And Gus Edwards had a good game too, but getting 113 yards on 15 rushes, like they're like, all right, let's let him do work now. And I think that we've seen Gus Edwards do well in spot duty. He's not going to overtake the backfield. Again, kind of going back to my point of when we were talking about like who to cut bait on. This isn't cutting bait, but if I'm going to bet on an asset, am I going to bet on the known like mediocre asset or the young guy that has a chance to explode? It's going to be the young guy that has a chance to explode. And Again, back to like the running back landscape. Are you going to do you want a Frank Gore who's going to give you your 9 points every week and nothing more? Or like, sure, like, yeah, he's the starter. Or do you want to take a risk on J.K. Dobbins who's going to like possibly win you the season? I want the season winner.
Absolutely. Totally agree there, man. Yeah, I mean, this backfield's sort of it's been kind of hazy all year. I don't know, AJ, if you've got much with it. I mean, we've kind of spoken on this before. Like, we've even said it in past, like when all three of these guys were healthy, it was like, I can't safely start any of them. But now that Ingram's been out, like you said, and I feel like now that we've seen a little bit of these other guys like actually outperform Ingram, if Ingram comes back, I don't know how this coaching staff just plugs him right back in. It just seems like they shouldn't, but we've seen weirder things before.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, I do have a couple of owner shares in Dobbins. I may have even reached and picked up Edwards for deep dives on teams that I'm super injured on just to have a body in there. But, I mean, I don't love either of them this week. I still like Dobbins better, I feel like, than Edwards. But, you know, going forward, I think I think it's going to be interesting. So, all right, we can move on to the next one here. Who else we got here?
Next team here real quick is the Broncos. And obviously, this is kind of a two-headed backfield here, man. It's Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. But, dude, when do the Broncos coaches realize that Phillip Lindsay is better than Melvin Gordon? I mean, come on. Everybody watching realized it. I don't understand. I know they gave Gordon the big contract, but win ball games, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when your entire backfield's combining for 14 rushing attempts, I mean, I know that's only a one example, but like, that's just really concerning to me. This feels like one of those situations where the answer can be nobody, and it's feeling like the Broncos are just kill. I'm with you guys. Like, it should be Lindsay. But man, I don't have a strong take on it just because I haven't even thought about touching this backfield in any format lately.
No, I don't have it. I think I've got a Lindsay share somewhere just because I got him super late, but like he's just sitting there waiting for a Gordon injury or something. That's about it.
Yep. All right, so the last team we got here then is the G-Men. So after Saquon, we've seen Devonta Freeman, we've seen Wayne Gallman, we've seen Dion Lewis. Hell, we've seen Alfred Morris.
Yeah.
I mean,
how many touches did he have last week? Like 8 or 9 or something?
Too many.
Coming straight off the streets.
I looked up from my couch and was like, did they just say Alfred Morris?
I had no idea that he was even still around in the league or whatever. But
literally no idea.
Yeah, my go-to is talking about the Eagles pulling their wide receivers out of the Amoroso's bread factory in downtown Philly. Well, shit, the Giants just one-upped them there and found Alfred Morris down on the docks in Long Island doing whatever. So, you know, or maybe he's out playing Bethpage Black over there and like, hey, come on, man. We need some help here.
That's a really, really hard course. You should probably find another one.
Yeah, indeed. I have not played it. I only went to watch a U.S. Open years and years back there. Shut up, producer, chef. No one cares. We're just bypassing football for a second, talking about smaller balls and clubs. Hey, first place. What?
I All right, moving on.
So the G-men. I mean, what are we doing with this backfield? Anything? Passing?
They're not good enough. They're always going to be. I mean, granted they were up on Tampa Bay last week, but you just have to assume they're mostly going to be in situations where they're losing a lot. I guess unless they're playing other NFC East teams, because all of them are bad. But we had a 50% touch share was the leader of the backfield last week, like we talked about because Alfred Morris was there. I mean, if you can't break away from Morris and be the leader in touches by like a huge margin, then obviously it's not going to be useful. I mean, I don't know if we have a timetable on Devontae Freeman. Like 2 weeks before he got hurt, he was up to 95% of the backfield work. So if he is going to be back like that, again, going back to the running back landscape, no matter how bad a team is, right, anybody that's getting all of the backfield work is going to be super valuable. If you're on a bad team and you're getting 50%, like that's awful. But if you're getting 90% of the backfield work on any team, you're going to be a valuable fantasy asset. So, I mean, if Freeman comes back and gets back to his workload, sure.
He was averaging like 15 a game in fantasy leagues. That was like half PPR because that's pretty much all I play. So, but yeah, I feel you totally. This backfield's untouchable, pretty much. Maybe Freeman when he comes back. The team's bad. Everybody's bad.
When is he supposed to be back?
I don't know. I can't get any news on it. All right. There we go. Jeff said he did individual drills today. So, yeah, probably not coming back this week. So maybe next week. But they do get the Washington football team. So you're talking about one of those bad teams again, although the defense is solid there. So I don't know about that one.
They're scary.
Yeah, that front is just.
That could actually be a sneaky decent game. I think Slayton and McLaurin can both have really nice games this week. Yeah. But that's wide receivers. That has nothing to do with running backs.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, man. We're going to jump into some injuries here. We'll pause and ask you a couple questions on a few of these guys, but basically we just kind of rip through these. So the guys we know that are out, and we've got Andy Dalton now on the COVID list. He was concussion. So Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush time. Yeah, good luck, Dallas. Kenny Galladay out with a hip injury, expected to miss probably way more than this week. Like, it sounds bad for him. It's unfortunate. Big news offensive line for Baltimore. Ronnie Stanley and is it Tyree Phillips, both out. So that's just massive for them. Like, you see these offensive line injuries. We saw Dallas get them, and it just decimates the team. Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously, we know is out from this game. A.J. Dillon and Jamal Williams are out for this game. Who knows how much longer they'll be out. Well, Garoppolo's out at least 4 to 6 weeks. Sorry. Gardner Minshew, thumb injury, had like pins and stuff inserted into his thumb, so he's out at least week 9. Who knows? Yeah, fracture and ligament damage. He's done for a little while. I feel like George Kittle, fractured foot, out 8 weeks. I mean that's the season, right, guys?
I did see a report today, like right before the Niners game started. I don't know the medical terminology, but whatever the fracture is on his foot, they're saying hold him for the fantasy playoffs. It's not whatever bone it is. It's the least major.
Thankfully, in every league I have him in, I have an IR spot. So at least one, especially this year, he expanded him, so I can stash him. But
so we kept George Kittle in the 4 for 4 rest of season rankings. We didn't take him out of it. I mean, I just think he's a kind of player where, like, if you are in fantasy contention and you make it through, even if it's championship week, he's a type of player you take the risk and just play him coming fresh off of an injury.
Absolutely.
In your championship.
Because tight ends,
you just do.
You don't find number 1, number 2 tight ends in all of fantasy just sitting out there usually.
No. But we'll get questions. If he comes back week 16, we'll get questions. Do I play him in my championship? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. I don't care who they're playing. I don't care who's the quarterback. You're playing him if he's active.
He was injured what was it, either last year or 2 years ago, and he just still played through it and dominated. He was just such a
Wasn't
stud.
it the New Orleans game when he and then he had that massive stiff?
Yeah, he just doesn't care.
Yeah, man. So moving on here, obviously we know Tevin Coleman and Debo are out. We're watching this game. They're gone. Miles,
are we watching this after turnaround? You guys are watching it. It's behind me.
Not super exciting. I'm not gonna lie. Miles Gaskins. It is a 21-3 game. Miles Gaskins sprained MCL, out at least the next 3 games. So that's a tough blow there. More running backs. We got Christian McCaffrey, high ankle sprain, questionable, but it sounds like he's coming back. He's getting some work, looking good. Want to ask you, TJ, what do you think about Davis's value with CMC coming? I mean, Davis was good for the first 4 weeks, and then these last couple of weeks he's been not so good. But I feel like he had to have earned some playing time, even with Christian McCaffrey there.
Yeah, I put out I think it was in week 4 or something. Does Christian McCaffrey drop down to an 80% work share guy instead of a 95% work share guy? So even if he that's still insanely high. Obviously, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but kind of not. But I think with what we saw over the last couple of weeks, I think Christian McCaffrey just goes back to being Christian McCaffrey. I thought Mike Davis was going to at least cut into it a little bit with how good he was playing for that short stretch, but it seems like that was maybe fool's gold a little bit. Yeah. If Christian McCaffrey's full health, I mean, I don't see a situation where Mike Davis is getting a quarter of the backfield work. And if he's getting less than that, he's just not going to be fantasy viable.
Yeah, I think he's still a stash guy, because you never know with these guys that come back from injuries this. He could re-injure real quick or re-injure something else really quick, and then Davis becomes right back in RB1 territory. But he'd be one of those guys that we were talking about before where, if you're in dire straits and you need bodies, you need points, maybe he's a guy you cut after a week and we see he's not getting nothing. Yeah. So quickly to move on from him, I would say. Chris Carson, questionable with a foot. Apparently he will test it on Friday, so we will find out tomorrow. Mark Ingram, questionable with an ankle, did not practice, seems unlikely to play, sounds like. Obviously, we know Aaron Jones is active today. We got more Seattle news. Travis Homer and Carlos Hyde, both questionable. They did not practice today. We've got, expand my window here. See, we got Kenyon Drake, questionable. He's likely to still miss a few weeks, day-to-day, for week 9. Did not practice today. Jonathan Taylor, this was a big, shocker last week. Got limited touches. Everybody was kind of wondering what the hell happened. And then apparently it came down with an ankle injury. So he's questionable, was limited in practice. So, I mean, how much are we, how much are we buying into, this ankle injury is going to hold him back and Wilkins is going to just be the guy again? Although Wilkins is kind of in the air too. So who knows?
I mean, if Wilkins is active and Taylor is out, we saw Wilkins get it was a dominant touch share, 21 touches. It wasn't like a lot of times you can be hesitant about those situations where sure they score twice, but it was on 30% of the backfield work or something. Someone's getting 21 touches. They're in a good situation. I mean, they're against Baltimore this week, is that right? So that's probably not going. Yes. You're not going to be excited about it, but you're gonna start him if he's getting that kind of workload. I mean, I don't think he's going to do what he did last week, but if Taylor ends up being out for a few weeks, Wilkins is going to be a plug and play.
Yeah. Moving on here, Zeke is questionable with a hammy. Didn't practice today. I couldn't find a whole lot about how serious that was. It might just be it feels stiff or something. I don't know. And then Matt Breida. So we obviously know Gaskins is out. Matt Breida is apparently questionable with a hamstring. He didn't practice today. So Jordan Howard, fire him up, right?
I guess.
Yeah. All right, AJ, finish it up here. Oh, yeah, DeAndre Washington, I forgot they signed him. Thanks, Jeff. I forgot. Or traded for him. I don't know what they're doing over there.
I do randomly still have Jordan Howard in a dynasty league that I'm in where I traded and got totally gashed on that trade.
How is it not our Laird and Savior, Patrick?
It should be. It should be. I mean, I did have him in that league too, randomly, and dropped him early in the season because it's like, this guy's never going to play. Well, that was stupid. All right, so let's jump into receivers here. The probably the biggest name on here that we have as far as new injury would be Calvin Ridley. He suffered a mild foot sprain last Thursday. He is questionable right now. He did not practice. We got Tim Patrick with a hamstring injury. He is questionable and limited. Michael Thomas, the bane of my existence, who I mentioned earlier, ankle, hamstring, suspension, arguing, stupidity, I don't know, questionable, limited practice. T.Y. Hilton's got a groin injury. He's questionable, did not practice. Jameson Crowder and Brashad Perryman are both questionable. We got a groin with Crowder and a concussion with Perryman. Looks like Crowder did not practice. Perryman is still TBD, I guess. N'Keal Harry is also dealing with a concussion, and he is questionable. So with that in mind, TJ, Jacoby Myers kind of has been coming out of the woodwork here the past few weeks. We saw Edelman go down. He's now on the IR. Harry has been dealing with ticky-tack injuries seemingly all season. I mean, both him and Edelman. Now Edelman's officially out. I mean, are you buying into Myers or Bird or any of the receivers on this offense? And they also did just trade for Isaiah Ford.
Isaiah Ford, go Hokies.
VT, baby.
Yeah. So here's the problem. Like, you have to look at Jacoby Myers. People are going to see that he saw 10 targets last week and be like, okay, he's the number one with those injuries. The problem is that accounted for 50% of the team targets. Like, that's a good indicator that he's going to be the number one. But if the Patriots are only throwing 20 times a game in a spot where, like, the Bills defense has been getting gashed, if he's not going to maintain a 50% target share no matter how many people are injured. So if that drops down to 30%, if they're only throwing 20, 25 times a game and those targets aren't high quality targets, Cam hasn't been good this year. And like at all, the only time he's been good as a fantasy player is he had one big passing game. And then without rushing, he just isn't good at throwing the ball right now. They're very low quality targets. This just isn't a good offense right now. So, I mean, sure, maybe he'll be a 25% target share guy, but that might be only 5 or 6 targets a week. So there isn't any upside in this offense right now.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. So moving on, we still got Sammy Watkins. He's still limited at practice, dealing with a hamstring injury. He is questionable. Brian Edwards, who I believe missed last week, is dealing with a foot and ankle injuries. He's questionable and was limited. Chris Godwin, still dealing with concussion. He's questionable right now, limited practice. Last I saw on it, he was quote-unquote 50-50 for week 9. But with Antonio Brown coming back, they may give him another week to just kind of relax and get 100%. And then another ad we had on here, Anthony Miller did not practice with a toe injury. So is Miller something you want to touch on?
We'll save that one. We have sleepers coming up.
All right. All right. So tight end, we've got Jimmy Graham, another Chicago man down. He's dealing with knee and hammy issues. He's questionable, did not practice. And Jordan Akins is dealing with ankle and concussion. He was a full participant in practice, so likely he will play.
Yeah, he's coming
So
back.
that's kind of the big thing. Did anybody mention? I missed the whole quarterback thing. Did you mention Stafford going on the COVID list?
Oh no, because you know what?
Yes.
My quarterback list got like cut off for some reason on my screen. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Stafford.
Well, there's nothing in it. I didn't put anything in it because it's like, well, there's no quarterbacks injured that aren't already out. So, okay, we're good. And then, of course, as soon as I'm done with this and hit close, it's like, oh, by the way, Matt Stafford. Blah, blah.
Yeah, Matt Stafford. There's a possibility if he tests negative. I guess before Sunday he'll play. So.
Yeah, it's got to be 5.
And it wasn't like he tested positive. He was like,
no.
Trey's contract or whatever. So yeah, he could play, but without Galladay, it's gonna be that's tough for him, man. He does not perform well without Galladay, it feels like. So all right, let's get into our week 9 picks, TJ. So what we do here, we do quarterback, running back, receiver, both sleeper and bust. We've got our threshold. We sent it to you beforehand, but just to explain to everybody, sleeper quarterback is anybody above 15 or 15 or above, I guess, in the Fantasy Pros ECR as of probably earlier today. You can go first.
I mean, my guy is Drew Lock. This game is set. I wouldn't say a sneaky shootout because the over-under is 50. I think it's going to be overshadowed because we have a lot of really high-scoring games, high-scoring teams. We have 2 defenses that have been thrown against at top 10 rates in neutral game script. Atlanta's allowed the most 300-yard games this year with 6, and their secondary is one of the worst in the league. And the Broncos' best receiver, Jerry Jeudy, is going to be matched up with Kendall Sheffield, who you can argue is the worst cornerback in the league. Atlanta's really bad against tight ends, and Denver has 2 very good tight ends in Noah Fant and Alberto. So I really like Drew Lock to break the top 10 this week. Shoot, maybe even top 5. I think this could be a really big back and forth game. Drew Lock is 17th in ECR, so just outside the top 15, but in a fantastic spot against the Falcons this week.
Yeah, I also had Lock. So who you got, Joe?
Yeah, that was going to be mine, but I saw AJ had it written down, and so I moved to somebody different. And it was tough. There wasn't a whole lot of guys outside the top 15 I liked, but I went different with Teddy. I mean, it's a tough matchup. I get it, but like they're going to have to pass a ton to keep up. And like how many times have we seen a bad team with at least an average quarterback make something happen in fantasy? And that's all we care about right now. He's going to have to pass a ton, and he's getting his best weapon back. And I get it, it's a running back, but come on, it's Christian McCaffrey who's going to catch 10 passes, right? So it could work out for Teddy. I agree 100% with you guys on Drew Lock, though. That was 100% where I went, and then I looked at the sheet and went, okay. All right, running back, anybody outside the top 24?
I love Zach Moss. Last week was his first game over 50% snap share. He had his highest yardage total of the season, over 80 rushing yards. It's kind of a split, but this is another game that's really going to shoot out. A lot of people are going to be on both passing games, and for good reason. I mean, Seattle secondary has been atrocious, but if you are a running back in an efficient offense, that means you're going to have more opportunities to be near the goal line. And we saw him score twice last week. He's getting the goal line work. He's the antithesis of Devin Singletary. He actually scores touchdowns. So if Zach Moss is getting that work in a offense that I think finally starts to bounce back, my Bills finally bouncing back this week, and the crazy thing, like, I thought for sure that, because I've been waiting for this matchup all season. I've been on Josh Allen. I can't wait for Josh Allen to play Russell Wilson. After the way they've played, I was like, oh, the Bills are going to be 7-point underdogs. They're only underdogs by 3 points. They could win this game. And if that happens, and Zach Moss has 2 touchdown upside, so I think Zach Moss he's a really nice play this week.
I like that pick. AJ, what you got?
All right, so I'm looking at my boy, Troy Maine Pope. We already talked about him earlier. 10 for 67 rushing, 5 for 28 receiving on 7 targets. And, I mean, that's against a tough Denver defense. So I think at this point he could potentially be surpassing Kelly as the RB2 for LA, but he's the guy I like this week. I think he's going to double down.
So I'm going with Gus Bus, man. I know we just talked about Dobbins taking over this backfield a little bit more, but and I get it. He had more yards last year. He looked more explosive. I get all that. But Gus Bus ain't going away. I mean, this team has not had a split backfield all season long, and I don't think after one game from Dobbins he goes over 100. They're just going to go, nah, it's all you, Dobbins. Gus is going to be involved. This coaching staff likes him a lot. And look, it's going to be a tough game with Indy for sure. Lamar's been struggling off and on all year, passing deep downfield. He's been inconsistent. He's made the fantasy. He's had some fantasy points, because he'll hit like one or two deep ones and he'll run for a bunch. But like overall quarterback play from him has not been good this year. So they're relying on this run game with him included. And so Gus is going to get his, and he's like 36, I feel like. And so he was way down there on the list. I feel like he can overachieve that by a lot. So receivers, TJ, anybody outside the top 36?
Darnell Mooney. 5+ targets in every game since week 3. At least 6 targets. I didn't even know
true state.
I didn't even know Jeff was on Darnell Mooney.
I'm just kidding.
But like on top of it, like not just the consistent volume, like it's not high volume, but it's consistent. But deep threat, 33% of the air yards on only 15% of the targets over the last month. The Titans are the only defense that ranks in the bottom 10 in schedule adjusted points to every single skill position. And then we just talked about the limited practice for Anthony Miller. So Mooney's in a good spot this week. I mean, Foles isn't going to connect on a lot of those deep balls, but man, Mooney, I think Mooney is he's in a blow up spot.
Bite your tongue, young man.
I'm just kidding, dude. Anyway,
Big Dick Nick connects on everything he wants to, unless it's batted down or he gets sacked or something. But all right, so moving on. Receiver. I'm going Jacoby Myers because that's who I wrote down yesterday. I feel really horrible making this pick now that you just pointed out a lot of things about him sucking and really Cam sucking.
By the way, AJ,
I know that. But yeah, no, it was between Myers and actually Marvin Hall. But again, that was before I heard the Stafford news. So I don't know. Either one could be a crapshoot this week because Cam does suck and Stafford may not even play. So whatever. One of those two might have a decent game.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to pick somebody pretty far down. I went with KJ Hamler, and look, this is going to honestly switch to Tim Patrick in a heartbeat if he's healthy. But I feel like if Tim Patrick is out, KJ Hamler's in a great spot to, against this Falcons. And again, you guys like Drew Lock. I like Drew Lock this game. Everybody likes picking on the Falcons, so why not KJ Hamler in a sleeper spot here? So
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, so bust quarterbacks. Anybody inside the top 12? TJ, you're up.
I mean, inside the top, Lamar's the easy one just because he's been playing so bad. But I want to give a little harder one. Justin Herbert, just because like all of these top 12 running backs are actually in really good spots this week, except like obviously we've seen Lamar struggle a little bit, but Herbert there's like it's a really big push and pull this week because Herbert's been playing super efficiently and Chargers have been playing pretty fast paced. But if you look at their splits, they've actually run at a pretty high rate in neutral game script. And the Raiders they run almost as much as anybody. And if Gruden has the choice, he's going to actually slow this game down. The Raiders played a really slow pace. And again, looking at like that, the high total is going to have people very excited about a shootout, but the spread's only 1.5. So if it's really close and the Raiders can control the pace of the game, Herbert might not have the opportunities that he's had in the last few weeks. Granted, the Raiders are a really bad defense, but if we're looking at range of outcomes of these players in the top 7 or 8 quarterbacks, I know we're talking about top 12, but I mean, just these really high-end guys, the Chargers probably have the highest range of outcomes because of the Raiders' slow pace out of all these quarterbacks, like cutting it off at Tom Brady.
I thought about him. I did not go him, but I thought about him. AJ, what you got?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I went with Tannehill because Bears defense is solid against opposing quarterbacks.
I guess Tannehill.
Simple as that.
For sure.
I mean, he's been decent this year, and he's had some really good games and been efficient, but the Bears just shut everybody down. So yeah, he's my pick for this week.
I would play Drew Lock over Tannehill this week. Not even a question.
Yep. Yeah, I've got Tannehill down to like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised his ECR is that high. My bust, again, I just kind of picked somebody different. I wanted to pick Lamar also since I saw AJ took Tannehill. But I went Josh Allen. I mean, you're talking about another struggling quarterback with Lamar. It's Josh Allen. I mean, I'll leave this podcast right now.
Sorry,
man, but he's struggling even against good teams, at least fantasy-wise. Like, they're winning games, so fine. But,
for sure.
He's struggling against good teams, like bad defense, Tennessee, the Jets. Yeah, the Jets, he threw for 300 yards, but he didn't score. So, like, fantasy guys, he's not helping you. So
he does have John Brown back. That's a huge deal.
It is.
Like, John Brown hasn't been 100%. I will say that. Like my whole... one of the reasons I was on Josh Allen was because of the duo at wide receiver.
Yes.
So I think they can get back on track a little bit because of that.
I'm hoping. I own him in 3 leagues, so because he just dropped in leagues, and I was like, thank you, and just picked him up, and yeah, I'm hoping. But man, it's been a bad like 4 weeks. It feels like with him, not bad, but not what you were hoping. He eclipsed 20. So
it's crazy how spoiled we get so fast.
I know. I knew the hot start wasn't going to keep going, but I thought maybe he could crack 20 a few times more. But anyway, anybody inside the top 20 for running backs, TJ?
I mean, this again, I kind of wanted to go with something a little more bold. Not a ton of analysis, but Chase Edmonds, just for the simple fact that Kyler could steal the touchdowns from him. It's in a situation where I think he is actually going to get a lot of receiving work because of Miami's pass rush. But I mean, we've seen it all year. Kyler was doing it to Kenyon Drake. So why doesn't he do it to Chase Edmonds? So Chase Edmonds could like legit have 100 total yards. And if he doesn't score, it's not that great of a fantasy game. So, I mean, I think if that's how it plays out, if he has 100 total yards and doesn't score, that's a bust for the 7th guy in ECR.
All right. Yeah. All right. I'm going Antonio Gibson here. He only racked up 55 yards on 13 touches against the Giants in week 6. G-Men held both Fournette and RJ2, I guess we can call him, Ronald Jones, in check on Monday night.
Rojo.
Yeah, Rojo.
No.
Yeah. Y. But yeah, the Giants defense is still pretty good against opposing running backs, and Gibson's really only had last week as his final breakout performance. So I think he might come back down to earth a little bit. That's my pick.
Yeah. Hey, real quick before my running back, we got a question that I have all these guys, 4 guys within like 5 spots. He needs 2 PPR flex: Swift, Claypool, DJ Moore, or Justin Jefferson. TJ, who are your 2?
Swift, Claypool, DJ Moore, Justin Jefferson.
Right.
Swift and DJ Moore.
AJ, I'm definitely on Swift.
Yeah, I gotta go Swift. What was DJ
Claypool,
Moore and who else?
DJ Moore and Jefferson. I was actually with TJ here. Those are my top 2, so I guess I'll just do it. But
yeah,
it's like
Jefferson's close.
Yeah, they're all right there. They're all within.
Jefferson
like 5
was
spots
going to be my go-to.
You're fine with all of them, by the way. Anyway, my running back. I mean, it feels easy at this point, but Zeke. I mean, it's just no thanks. Running back, receiver inside the top 20, inside the top 24 is a bust. CJ
out.
Well, you have really good timing with your questions because my bust is Chase Claypool, who you just included in our question.
All right.
I mean, every 3 out of the 4 games that Deontay's played at least 70% of the snaps, he's seen 10 plus targets. We've seen Juju get a quarter of the targets in the last 2 games. So I think those guys are going to continue their volume in this spot. Claypool he's a popular play because we've seen him have the big plays, but this is a diluted target share on the Steelers, and they're going to be in a spot where they're definitely in a position to score a ton of points, but in those spots where those points are going to go in a spread out target share, it's really going to be hard to predict. So I can't confidently project anybody as the one right now in that offense. So whoever is the highest, I think is the easiest to choose as a bust. And then of course Connor can steal all the touchdowns.
Yeah, that's true. AJ, who you got?
I didn't even mention Ebron.
I'm just going DJ Moore. So also fairly good timing with the question there.
Yeah.
He had a terrible outing last week against such a beatable defense in Atlanta. And he goes to a tough matchup in Kansas City this week. He went 2 for 55. Not going to do it. 6 targets is nice, but you can't catch 4 of them. You're not helping your teams.
Yeah, Casey doesn't give up the deep ball, which is scary.
Nope. That's his game. So, all right, mine's Hollywood Brown. We've mentioned it before. Lamar's been struggling. Hollywood's big boomer bust guy, and he's been more bust than boomer this year. Colts, obviously a tough defense. So I'm passing on Hollywood Brown this week if I can. Over to our tight end streaming, we do the Yahoo ownership percentages here, and anybody in less than 50% or 50% or less owned in Yahoo leagues.
Yeah, I'm gonna go really deep. You guys mentioned him on the injury report, but it looks like Jordan Akins is coming back. I mean, this is an offense that's going to be in a really good spot against a Jacksonville team that's bad on defense. They can't rush the passer, they can't cover wide receivers. So Deshaun Watson's been on fire, 300 yards in 4 straight games, multiple touchdowns in 4 straight games. So if has a lot of touchdown opportunity at this point, the tight end position is so thin that even if you get 30 yards and a score from your tight end, like that's a pretty damn good week. And we saw Akins early in the season. He's going to get some end zone targets. So if Deshaun Watson is balling, might as well get his pass catchers.
Yeah, I had him queued up as one of mine, but go ahead, AJ.
All right. I'm going with Mr. Philly Special himself, Trey Burton. I'm sticking with the tight end going against Baltimore defense this week because it actually worked for me for once last week when I picked Ebron. I was a little high on the yardage, but I told you he would get in the end zone, and he did. So Burton he's a goal line threat now with 2 rushing touchdowns in back-to-back weeks as the Wildcat quarterback for Indy. I mean, we've seen what he did in the Super Bowl as a quarterback. So, roll the dice and enjoy Trey Burton this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's scraping the bottom of the barrel here, but Logan Thomas, I mean, hey, he scored two weeks in a row playing the Giants. They're not a good D, so why not? Defenses, same thing, man. 50% less or owned.
I was really surprised. I guess they haven't been playing well, but the Vikings didn't get their ownership percentage bump off the first wave of waivers, but they're way down there. Vikings, they were favored by 4 going into the week. Now, if Stafford doesn't play, I would assume that line moves to 7 or something like that. Detroit's one of the worst offenses in terms of adjusted sack rate, according to Football Outsiders. And even though they haven't been throwing a ton, they're still top 12 in neutral passing rate. So Vikings, if they're big favorites, and Detroit is down Stafford and Golladay, Vikings are a really good streamer.
Nice. Yeah. I know people have picked him up in a couple of my leagues. So AJ, who you got?
All right, I'm going with Houston this week.
Yeah.
I mean, they had their
like
best
that.
game of the season in Jacksonville or against Jacksonville in Week 5. It was the second highest point total according to the Yahoo league that we follow, given up against Jacksonville opponents. I think it was like 12 points or so was their worst given up, and they had 9 or so for Houston. You got a rookie quarterback potentially in Jake Luton. He's going to be on his back early and often. I just think Houston's going to dominate this game on all facets. So
Jacksonville's O-line is atrocious.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, like maybe Jacksonville scores a couple times, but they're going to get sacked a ton, so it's going to be bad. Fumbles, they're going to get it. Houston defense is going to be a good one. That's the one I wanted to pick, but I did pick the Giants, even though I just said Logan Thomas is my tight end streamer. But like, look, the Giants are horrible, but they put up 14 points against this team last time, just 2 weeks ago. AJ, you've got Gibson as your bust running back, so like the stars are aligning again. Maybe, I don't know. It's just, it feels like just a crappy, low scoring, turnover ridden, sacked ridden game. It's just like, I don't want anything to do with this game. Division teams, just defense is all I really want to play. Logan Thomas is like a desperation tight end play. Hopefully you've got somebody better, but we know people don't sometimes. So, all right, man. TJ, we are close on time, but I think we got it. We glad to have you on. Not that everybody watching doesn't know who you are already, but remind them where they can find you and stuff.
Yeah, on Twitter at TJ Hernandez. Everything is at 4for4. We do a Discord, if you play DFS, a subscriber-only Discord every Saturday, and that's been really, really fun and really useful for our users, I think. So if you're looking for some really like late week DFS advice, hop in there. It's been awesome.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and enjoy the rest of your night, man.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks, sir.
All right, AJ. That's all I've got. Want to wrap it up?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I don't have anything else other than I cracked open a double duck pin from Union Craft Brewing in Baltimore, double IPA, and it's about empty.
Another IPA for TJ to rag on us about, so it's all good. All right, man.
Boys.
Have a good one, guys.
Later, guys.
All right, later, man. And he's out.